We love the power and grace of athletes, artists, CEOs, and high achievers with their zest and grit. But have you ever wondered how they cut through all the distractions, harness their energy, and get into flow to achieve their goals? And what do they do with the money that comes their way? I'm Darren Wright, author of Peak Financial Fitness. Join me on a fascinating journey to gain a peek into the intersection of high-performing people and everyday financial life. There will be highs and lows and inspiring stories for you to achieve your goals. All right, welcome everybody. I've got a special guest on today, John DiJulius. John consults with some of the best customer service companies in the world. He's written 5 best-selling books on customer service, including his most recent book, which he's going to tell us about here in a moment. Please welcome John DiJulius.
Thanks, Darren. It's a pleasure to be here.
Oh man, it's a pleasure to have you. I loved reading your book, The Relationship Economy, and I'm excited to read your new book coming out. What's the name of the new book?
The Employee Experience Revolution. And it's just how to, make, coming off the pandemic with the, quiet quitting and great resignation. It's just about increasing morale, employee team member retention, and, just get back to creating great cultures. I believe great organizations should be built to help people live extraordinary lives and live a life of meaning and purpose. And so much of what we do, for a living is part of our lives, and it's unavoidable. So I think great leaders and great organizations should that should be their calling.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, and I think it's super cool and beneficial for our listeners today to know that you're not just out there speaking, which you do a lot of, and writing books. You've actually done it. You've been in the trenches. You started a company, John Roberts Spa, right, in Cleveland, and you now have become one of the top 20 salons in America. So you've actually had practical business experience as well as coaching others and teaching others about this as well. Is that right?
Yeah, 3 businesses I've started. John Roberts Spa, a little over 30 years ago. Still own them, not involved in the day-to-day, but the DiJulius Group, which is a customer and employee experience consulting firm, and that's where I spend 99% of my professional time. And then also about 10 years ago, started Believe in Dreams, which is a nonprofit helping underprivileged kids have their dreams come true. So those are my 3 ventures.
Well, it sounds pretty awesome. 3 awesome things. One of the things I think is super valuable about what you do is, and that everyone's going to be interested in, is your mastery of learning how to build rapport and develop relationships. In my research and work and just, paying attention day to day and talking with people, in this day where we have so many distractions, we're always been distracted as humans, we're always interested in this and that, but with, social media, our phones, just busyness, Netflix, all the things that high achievers stack on their plate. These distractions is becoming even more important to learn this skill and building rapport and developing relationships. And you're a master at that. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, the quote I like to use on this is today's illiterate are those who have an inability to make a meaningful connection with others. And, a lot of people think I'm just talking about the, dreaded millennials and Zs that we are all afraid of and all that, which I think is funny because those of us who criticize them are the ones that raised them, right? It's a little backwards. And I think they're great generations, maybe the best ever, but they're not willing to trade hours for dollars, right? Their currency is purpose. And so, but if you get back to it, I did a TED talk called Meet a as strangers, leave as friends. And it's about exactly what you talked about, how to build an instant rapport with others. And, it's hard today. And every generation, our people skills have declined for what you said, because, the digital revolution and now the pandemic has only heightened that. I have 3 screens here, and if I wasn't smart, and I've been guilty of this, I could be looking at, someone just, made a connection with me on LinkedIn, or someone just made a comment, and multitasking, right? And the greatest gift we can give anyone is the gift of our attention. And that's hard today. It's a lot easier said than done. And to our client, to our kids, to our spouse, to our employees. So it's really about focusing on that, and making sure that there's a great science studied the human brain. And they found that it takes the human brain 0.6 seconds to formulate a response to something said to it. Then they studied hundreds, thousands of conversations, and they found the average gap between people talking was 0.2 seconds. So the $1 million question is, how can I be responding to you in 1/3 the time my brain will allow me, right? And the answer is, in most conversations, I wasn't listening. I was just waiting for you to come up for air, so I can jump in and tell you what I've been dying to tell you and hijack the conversation, right? And so I think Simon Sinek says it best. There's a difference between listening and waiting for your turn to talk, right?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, as you were talking, I was practicing total concentration on you and not thinking about the next question I wanted to ask you, because I've watched your TED Talk and I know how important that is. And I watch a lot of Simon Sinek as well. And so, yeah, I think it's a skill. I don't think it comes natural to most people, maybe some. My wife's a great question asker, and she puts the focus on you. But how about you? Did that come natural to you, John, or did you learn that skill?
No, I mean, I was so bad at this. It's kind of funny that it's what I teach now. But a couple things. One, 30-40 years ago, if we were going out as couples, and let's say our wives knew each other, and I'd be like, well, what's Darren into? And who is he? And if you didn't like the limited number of subjects I liked, which was basically business, customer service, and baseball, I'd be like, I don't want to go out with him, right? Because I'll have nothing to talk to him about. And that was really, who I was. And now, you realize you got to have insatiable curiosity and be an investigative reporter and find out what Darren likes and just ask him questions. And I think it was Tom Peters said, if you ask a question and don't ask 2 to 3 follow-up questions, odds are you weren't listening. So, in business and in life, we should have like a 4-to-1 ratio of questions asked versus answered. And we're all genetically coded to be preoccupied about what's going on in our life. Right now I'm thinking about my youngest son got in trouble, in school a couple of days ago, and my flight was delayed on the way home last night from Calgary. And, I hear my salesperson is looking at getting another job. Right. And those are hard urges not to, just, when if you meet someone, they say, how you doing? Tell them that. Right. So, you gotta make it about them, and you got to resist that urge. And that's where, we brought up, I think earlier offline, is that's where if I focus on your Ford, Ford, I keep it off me and keep it on you. And I know, firsthand, and I teach this to my boys and my clients is if I learn 2 or more things of your Ford, A, I'm not going to be talking about myself, but B, I not only built a relationship, I probably own the relationship, because to you and each and every person listening, our own Ford is what we geek out about. Right. And so Ford, yes. Family. Is he married? Does he have kids? How old are his kids? What activities are his kids into? Grades, occupation. What's he do? What's his title? What's his company's name? R stands for recreation. And to a lot of people, that besides our kids and family, that's our hottest buttons. What we choose to do with, our evenings and weekends, is something that we love. And it might be, triathlete, it might be yoga, it might be donating time to charity. And then the D in Ford is dreams, right? What's on his bucket list? What's on her bucket list? What's, their encore career they're hoping to get to someday. So, that helps a lot. I have a Ford document right next to me that, I'm on the call with clients or anyone. I'm writing down the notes. And a lot of times you don't have to ask these things, right? Clients, people overshare and they'll tell you, something that's going on and how hot it is in Scottsdale today. Boom, just caught some Ford there. And now I can follow up with you, in the next couple of days on, how the Diamondbacks do in the National League Championship Series, and, congratulate you and say great job onto the World Series, or say, maybe next year. And in a typical conversation, you might have forgotten that you told me you're from Scottsdale, or that came up, or I looked it up on LinkedIn, and be shocked that I knew that, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and offline we had talked about Patricia Fripp, and you'd worked with her in the past, and I have too. And one of the things, and I lose track, and I want to give credit where credit's due. Patricia Fripp, or maybe someone else, gave me this tip, Bill Backrack possibly, but it was, someone tells you something like the story. One of the stories I saw in one of your speeches was about your son, who's a national champion in wrestling, and my son's a national championship champion, and then tell me more, right? So expand. So someone may like, well, he wants to learn more about that. And then, go deeper.
And who doesn't want to talk about their kids, right? It's
right.
Like, oh my God. Yeah.
So that whole idea with Ford, I love. And then I need to create an acronym, but it's like, tell me more, expand, go deeper, and then more of an impact. So what kind of impact did that make on your life to see your son not only win a national championship, but beat that guy that was super proud of his son, talking smack, and believe, more importantly, that story when he came back to you and said, I did it because you told me I could do it.
Yeah.
Like, what kind of impact did that make on your life?
Right.
That from your son.
Yeah, and so those are clarifying questions, and there's a myth that I found in my book, that a lot of us think being a sponge is being a good listener, and a sponge is letting you do all the talking and me just occasionally saying uh-huh, and they say, you don't want to be a sponge, you want to be a trampoline. And kind of what you just, said, trampoline is saying, well, hold on, Darren, how did he get into that sport? Or, was it always easy? Did it come natural? And asking clarifying questions to allow the person, to be the centerpiece of the conversation, and go deeper and further, which, really expands it and makes the person that you're focusing on really get excited. Oh, you would know he wasn't always good. And then, I get into that story of, when he was 10 and he got beat by Ryan in Tulsa, and, what that looked like. And, that's it, and not just, asking a question and hoping they ask you. It's kind of like, Darren, you got any plans for the weekend? And you say, well, good, you want to know what I'm doing? And I really didn't care about what your plans for the weekend. I was trying to tell you, I couldn't wait to tell you what I was going to do. So yeah, that's that fierce or insatiable curiosity, which is.
I was going to say, come back to that. I love that insatiable curiosity. I use a term called the curious archaeologist. So, and the reason I do that, and a childlike curiosity as well, because there's and kind of my studies or research, there's a book called The Positive Intelligence, I think it's called, by Shirzad. And can't remember his last name. I got to memorize that. But he talks a lot about the judge voice, and the judge voice in our head, judging ourselves, judging others. And so that curious archaeologist mindset, you're asking those questions, clarifying, expanding, impact deeper, go deep, but you're not judging along the way, right, yourself or the other person, and you're just collecting information. So
One of my favorite clips that I use. Are you a Ted Lasso fan?
Oh my God. Yes. Be a goldfish.
Right. So do you, the one that I use about curiosity is when he's playing darts and sandbagging and he talks about, hey, Rupert, I saw a sign that said, don't be judgmental, be curious. And it's just such a powerful quote of like, so many often we're like, what is wrong with that guy? Why is he, versus asking questions, and it totally makes sense why he is doing or whatever that may seem out of left field to us.
Yeah, and so much of this, like I one of the reasons I'm so grateful for you coming on and talking is because of your work in relationships and how important that is to all of us. I mean, whether we're in business or not, your stay-at-home, spouse, whatever. I mean, who doesn't want better relationships? And I think you said research shows that the most, one of the things people most want are deeper relationships. And I don't know if you mentioned that on a TED Talk or in one of your books, but I wanted to tell you that in like field work, the work that I do with my clients is I help them go through a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, with whatever goal they have, a personal goal, success goal, financial goal, like what's important about money to them, what's important about success to them, what's important about, family to them. And as you go through that, oftentimes it's better relationships. And I can just picture just dozens of people. I want better and deeper relationships. So I'll pause there. Tell me a little bit about more your work and research, what you found about people wanting those deeper and better relationships.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard of the 70-year study Harvard did. They literally followed people for 70 years, and let's say from 20 to 90, and the people that were the happiest in their life, they couldn't find anything. Some were rich, some weren't, some didn't have the financial, where some, were married, all these different things. But the one thing that the people that reported that the highest level of happiness had the strongest relationships. And, as we all know, where you are today, where you're going to be in 10 years, where you're going to be on your deathbed, all comes back to the relationships you've built and or where you aren't today. And just making sure, and everything we're discussing is not just for a professional, right? It's how we should be treating everyone, how we're treating that stranger in the elevator and saying, Alex, I love those shoes, or maybe I don't know Alex, but I'm saying, complimenting her shoes.
He has nice shoes.
Yeah, I'm sure she does. But it's when it's authentic, but making, someone's day just by, reinforcing the decision he or she made by choosing that scarf or that jacket or the pair of shoes. Because what we all forget pre-pandemic, hopefully it's happening, is most people struggle with even what they're going to wear today. I pick out my outfit the night before, right? And then in the morning, I get like, outfit remorse. Like, oh my God, I don't know if this goes with this. And then I go and bug my significant, honey, is this, and she rolls her eyes and she said, yes. And you go out and you forget. But if someone reaffirms, hey, dude, I love that shirt or I love that jacket, you're like, hell yeah, and makes you feel really good. So it's about, I have something that pops up on my phone at 6 a.m. because I think the first thing that goes through our mind is so important to setting the day right. And my quote that pops up every morning at 6 a.m. is, act as if today is the day you'll be remembered for how you treat others.
Oh, brother, I got to tell you, thank you. I'm sorry to catch up, but
no.
You know what my morning it says?
Huh?
Act today as the day I will be remembered for how I treat others. And I must have got that from you somewhere along the road.
Yeah. I got one at 10 p.m. that says, how many people had a better day today as a result of coming in contact with me? And so I try not to just swipe that and check it, as often as I can. I try to do a little mental audit. And I'll be honest, I don't always like my answer, right? And sometimes it's my kids. Sometimes it's, people closest to you where you snapped at them because, how that is. So I just try to hold myself accountable and say, I got to do better tomorrow.
Well, thank you again, because like I said, it's on every day. And just before, I have memento mori, which is kind of like, carpe diem,
Yeah.
for my daughter. But she gave me that little tip, but I appreciate that. Yeah, it means a lot. And for those of you, we've mentioned Alex. She's kind of our Robin Quiver. She's in the background. Alex, you're probably muted, but you can say hi if you want. Okay, she doesn't want to say hi.
Okay.
But that's one of the things that, Alex is my teammate, my partner in business, and we've had talks about that I can always do a little bit better job of showing up for her and kind of just recognizing all her skills and greatness more frequently. So that's one of the things also that I work on a daily basis as well. But how do you, John, what inspired you to kind of come up with this passion and mission for what you're doing? And we talked beforehand, and one of the questions I like to ask is, do you have like an overarching strategy, a mission statement, that's important to you in your life? So it's kind of two questions. Do you have one of those mission statements, and how did you come up with this path and journey for you?
So first on the path, the professional path, went 30 years ago when we opened our first business, the little 900 square foot hair salon. Like any busy city, there was, a hair salon in every direction. If you had a bad arm, you could hit, throwing a ball, you could hit, 10 in any direction. And so we couldn't outspend. We had no money, no customers, no employees, right? And so we couldn't outspend, out advertise, out build, whatever you want to call it, out pay. But what was prevalent in the early 90s was, or not so prevalent, was customer experience. It was just, in a lot of industries, but especially the salon. And so we're like, all right, well, that could be our differentiator, right? We have great hairdressers, but we didn't want to be known as the best experience you can get in the hair salon business, because I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake. They say, oh, we're the best financial planner around, or we're the best hair salon, or we're the best consulting. Well, that may or may not be true, but listen, if you're coming into my salon today to get a haircut, or Alex's, or whoever is, you then don't leave and go across the street to our nearest competitor and compare. You're good for a few weeks, maybe a month, for your hair or salon spa needs. So where are you going before or after you come into my salon? You're running your errands, you're stopping at a dry cleaner, you have a doctor's appointment, you're meeting a buddy for lunch. And that's what you're comparing. And you're saying, you're like Dorothy on the Wizard of Oz, clicking your heels saying, God, I wish I was back at John Roberts because no one treats me as well and as nice. Or you could be saying the opposite, right? So we didn't want to be the best salon experience, because that's very limited in a person's day or week. We wanted to be the best experience you had in your day. And, always, why did I feel so happy Tuesday, but I don't feel, Tuesday I went to the salon and they made me feel like a VIP and got all these compliments. So that's kind of how it started. It was just a competitive advantage. And then you fast forward, 15, 20, 30 years later, now when we do have deeper pockets and we could, compete in other areas, we still only compete on experience, because that's the biggest return on investment. And so a longer story shorter, in the 90s, when we were making a name, for us, we were growing so fast, and we had a reputation for the customer experience. That's where other businesses started asking me to speak. And, I never knew it, snowball, but I started speaking. And then my first book came out in 2002, and it just totally took me out of the salon industry to speaking and consulting. And then that rest is history. So I know that was a long answer. I don't know if you have anything, or you just want to go into that personal vision statement that you asked.
Yeah, I want to come back to the personal vision statement, but in a moment. So what did that, obviously with the focus on the experience, which I love, right? Not just the experience with the salon, just the overall best experience. Alex and I talk about it, that Four Seasons level experience. And the example that I talked to her about is, there's a Four Seasons down in Cabo called Costa Palmas. There's now two down there, but the first one was on the East Cape. It's down where Jacques Cousteau used to do a lot of his filming in the Baja there. It's flat water. It's super cool. Great experience, but they've got a cool wakeboard boat. And so you can go out there because it's like lake water. It's flat. There's no waves. And when you get on the boat, they hand you, a Fiji water, cold Fiji water. So they pull it out of a cooler, ice chest. They dry it with a towel, and then they slightly undo the cap and tighten it back up, and then hand it to you. So it's like next level to hand the Fiji bottle to someone cold, wipe it down, next level, and then to actually help them by unscrewing it a little bit before they hand them to it. Like, that's just like a cool experience.
Right. Versus the other boat could say, you have any water? Yeah, over there in that third cooler, go help yourself. Right.
Bingo.
Yeah. So, and that's actually, what, we call making price irrelevant. And that's, totally what the DiJulius Group does. And that's why companies hire us. And so people hear that, they're like, wait, hold on. You can't make price irrelevant. And so making price irrelevant by my terms doesn't mean you can double your prices and raise them 50% and not lose existing or potential clients, customers, whatever they may be. What making price irrelevant does mean is, based on the experience your brand consistently delivers, your customers, clients should have no idea what your competition charges, right? And there's a lot to unpack there. Your brand means it can't be just dependent that I get a Darren, right? Because I may get Alex tomorrow, or I may get someone else. And so we can't have employee roulette. And listen, we're all price sensitive. I've driven 3 extra miles to save 50 cents on something, not realizing I just lost in that exchange, right? But I have a few businesses that I do business with personally, and a few businesses I do business professionally that I am so loyal to because of the way they treat me, the personalization, the peace of mind, the brilliant comeback they've made if they ever drop the ball, that, I recommend them. Oh, Darren, you're looking for a handyman, you got to use Brian Hooper. And then sometimes someone will say, well, how much does he charge, per hour? Because my handyman, my carpenter charges $125 an hour, whatever. And that's where I'm embarrassed to say, I have no idea. I don't care, because he saves me money. And we all know a lot of times the cheaper you go, the more it costs you, right? In time, hassle, calling up, being on hold, trying to get them to, come out and fix it, whatever that may mean. That's where I want to live. I want to make price irrelevant, where people trust and are so happy with whatever I'm giving, that they have no idea how I rank because they're not out price shopping me.
Yeah, it's a great example. And I feel like it's really more important today than ever, and becoming even more so with fee compression. There was an article this morning in the Wall Street Journal about residential real estate commissions, and a focus on that. And there's a big antitrust lawsuit, and who knows where that goes. But I've got friends that are in the residential real estate space. One of my good friends, Robert Jaffe, here in Arcadia, is like a little community within the Scottsdale, Phoenix area. Really cute homes and so forth. And he kind of has just done a great job of owning that. And he does it with just amazing customer service knowledge, but his way of being is really special. But at the end of the day, everything we do is a commodity, right? I mean, we can find anyone that has the same service and products that someone else does, and cheaper. So you better be bringing something, of kindness and caring and expertise and something that's more relationship, knowing that, if you're in a real estate industry, knowing that your kids are into soccer, and this is, here's a list of some, great, a travel team soccer, that because I know you're moving here from a different state, and I know, your kids, are elite soccer players at 12 and under. So here, and you'd be shocked. Well, how'd you find that soccer team? My real estate, my banker, my financial planner. That's not their job. Exactly.
but they cared enough. And how long did that take them? 30 seconds to Google it, or to ask their neighbor whose kids that play soccer, hey, what's the best soccer, team for a 12 and under? Oh, you got to make sure they're on, this. Boom. That those are little low-hanging fruit that doesn't take any longer, but you're probably, other people you're doing business with aren't doing that for you. They're more transactional.
Well, and it's a great point. And with the rise of AI coming on, it's even, again, separate from the conversation we just had about, fee compression and those commodities and that kind of thing. It's AI, right? If you are a technician, you can be replaced. Even writers now, in Hollywood, and financial advisors, anybody that's a technician.
Darren, you can go into chatbot and say, give me a customer experience article in John DiJulius's voice, and boom. Right? I mean, it's crazy. Yeah. I mean, you could do it on anybody that writes blogs or anything. And, it's a piece of cake. Who needs the writer anymore? And you're exactly right.
So it's even more important to learn these skills that you're out there telling the world about, which is amazing. And I don't think it was Patricia that said this. I think it was an acting coach along the way back when I was at Arizona State, but someone told me, make their face your home. So, be comfortable looking at them, and, just don't bore, laser beams through their forehead, but make their face your home. What you're talking about the questions, listening. I used to think Katie Couric was a great interviewer. I don't know if she's the best, but maybe Barbara Walters was. But asking those good questions, learning what you're teaching about, impact and expanding, clarifying, all those things. I think that's hard for people. It's easy for some, but hard for others. Which is why I brought up the Shirzad, the positive intelligence. I'm just super excited about meditation, and not in a woo-woo, way, but how I've been able to more recently finally crack the code for me to build it in as a habit on a daily basis and get 15 minutes of meditation in the morning, first thing, and how that's allowing me to be a little bit more focused, be able to think about these things that you're talking about.
Be intentional.
Yeah, because we're just the environment is so jacked up right now, and it just is, right? So you can be all pitiful about it, but the dopamine hits we're getting, like you talked about earlier, well, you're getting notifications on your LinkedIn or whatever the case may be. Like that's the environment and technology messing with us in our brain and giving us dopamine hits. And so what are we doing to counteract that and fight that, so that we can have the presence of mind that when opportunities come up, we don't miss them? You can have the universe working with you, but if you don't have the awareness to catch it when it comes from you, it's gone and it may never come back again. And then everything you're talking about, looking them in the eye and listening and asking those questions. So it's a lot. I mean, do you think about that as well? Do you practice mindfulness or meditation to do this, or does it just
I've tried, and I haven't been successful, but I had someone who said, John, you all of us probably meditate more than you think. I'm like, I don't, I don't. He says, do you like your showers? I'm like, oh, I love my showers. And he's like, do you ever, how long do I go, some days it's, 15 minutes. And he says, you're meditating. And I'm like, oh my God, and he's right. I mean, what else you doing? I don't have my phone in there. I'm not, I don't have company in there. I'm in there and I'm just thinking. And he says, do you ever work out without listening to a podcast or music? And I said, on occasion. He goes, that's meditating. If you go for a run today, and you're just, in your mind, you're present, you're thinking about it. And so it made me feel a little better, because I felt like a failure at it. But, he's right. And so I do try to build in those more peaceful times. It's funny, when I do go for a run without listening to a podcast or music. It's so funny. When I get back home, I run and I'm looking for anything because I have 16 ideas that came to me while I was doing it, because I gave my mind the opportunity to, be creative. And you'd think you'd have more ideas when you come back listening from a podcast. And while I do, there's something about that mindfulness that you're letting your mind, things just come to you, and you get some clarity, and that's where I think the innovation comes from.
Yeah, I agree. Are you a fan of James Clear at all?
No, I'm not aware of him.
Okay. He's just got some great things out there. He mentioned in an email he sent out today, philosopher and author Arthur Schopenhauer, on the importance of reflection and contemplation rather than the mere reading and research. So and I'm going to tell you more, but, we devour all these, we can read books and pound them in, but you may accumulate a vast amount of knowledge, but it'll be of far less value to you than a much smaller amount if you have not thought it over for yourself. Because only through ordering what you know by comparing every truth with every other truth can you take complete possession of your knowledge and get into your power. And that struck me today, because that balance, like what you just talked about, you could go through mindlessly listening to good things as you're running, but if you don't stop to afterwards and write them down or email yourself or document it, and maybe then give it some thought, you're going to, number one, lose it, but it's also that deeper thought that can give it more meaning and relevance to you and how you can create it, make it valuable to you and others in your life. It just kind of struck me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I love that.
So I want to get back to your mission and overarching strategy. And so tell us about that, because it's got to be something that drives you through a highly successful business career with the spas, and now obviously with the 5 best-selling books and one on the way, and all of your speaking and counseling that you do with corporations and groups.
Yeah. So my personal vision statement, and it's everywhere. It's even on my little binder here. It says living an extraordinary life so countless others do. And, I really take that seriously. And so why, I ask people, why do you want to live an extraordinary life? And, to me, it's not so I have, more money, more houses, more toys, all that, that may be a byproduct. But it's so others live an extraordinary life. So first, if you go backwards and think of, what if Walt Disney, Steve Jobs, Martin Luther King, Nelson Mandela, whoever the greats are in your world, what if they would have just said, screw it, when they were younger, and so and they chose to be ordinary, right? And they didn't do and go after what they have, how different our lives would be, right? And so, to me, living an extraordinary life comes with, it's not just a sentence I read and say, oh yeah, I got to live an extraordinary life. I have an accountability of what I need to do, and I audit it. And a lot of times I'm not living an extraordinary life, or I'm not an 8 or a 9. I may be a 6 or a 7. And so I'll go to my list of what I need to do. And I'll say, oh, that's why. Right. Who I'm spending time with, maybe it's not positive people. Maybe it's not people that, maybe it's, I'm hanging out with my buddies who drink too much, or, run around too much, or, don't exercise, or don't want to be better human beings, so there's a lot of things that I put in that, and living an extraordinary life isn't an opportunity. I believe, I believe it's a responsibility, right? Because of the impact, we all have seeds of potential. The seeds of potential that you or I or Alex or anyone listening don't sow, that we could be, not only cheats us, but it cheats those dependent on us. It cheats my 3 boys. It cheats my 150 employees. It cheats my thousands of customers, a better life. And, let's say, we were business partners, employee, boss, brothers, family member, whatever we are to each other. And, we're sitting at lunch and I'm grabbing a donut and junk food and pop, and you could say, John, what are you doing? Why are you eating like crap? And I could say, Darren, mind your own business, right? What I eat is up to me. And you have every right to say, no, it's not, right? Because if you're not the best version of yourself, that affects me as your, again, business partner, spouse, son. If I eat like crap, I choose not to work out today. I choose to hang around not positive people. Well, there's a domino effect. Then I come home from work, cranky attitude, want to open a beer, a glass of wine, sit on the couch. And, maybe when my kids were younger, they said, Dad, you want to go outside and play catch? I'm like, no, I just want to watch the game. Right. Or I'm quick to be irritable. Right. And that domino effect that it has. So, I don't make it as like, hopefully I do it once in a while, and I don't always do it, but that's my compass. That's my North Star. And I feel it's an obligation to be the best version of myself. So how, and so I have three kind of pillars, if you will, personally, and three pillars professionally that I know what I have to do. And it's the exercise. It's what you're feeding your mind. It's being a role model to your kids and family. It's being fun. Like that's something I got to put in there, be more fun. Because I it's easy for me to just get caught up in the doing and in the checklists and in the goals, and forgetting that that's not what your kids want today. They want you to come home, and bring army guys and put them all over the house and let's get water guns and shoot them and see who wins. That's what's fun to them. So same thing professionally. What I need to do for my company, what I need to do for my team. And my team is the management team. It's not the 150 employees, but it's those people. It's sharing the vision and showing them, what their part is in the vision, and how, and charity and giving back. And, there's a lot of things to it. And again, I'm not bragging. There's a lot of days I wake up and realize I'm not living an extraordinary life, but I do have this accountability piece that I could go back to and see what needs to get more water, what needs to get more daylight that I'm neglecting. And it kind of helps me get back there sooner than just, wondering after a year, why is my life off the track.
So say out loud again your mission statement, if you don't mind.
Living an extraordinary life so countless others do.
And what is important about that to you?
Just, that's why I believe I was put on, the earth. That's why I believe everyone was put on the earth. But so anyone that I come in contact, I just heard a great quote, so a new definition of being a billionaire is those who positively impact 1 billion people's lives. I love that. Right. Yeah. And listen, most of us don't come in contact probably in our lifetime with 1 billion people directly, but we do indirectly. Mm-hmm. So, if I give you a bounce in your step, I make you feel better about what you're doing. I encourage you. You're going to go off to your next interaction, your next Zoom call, your next meeting, home to your family, hopefully, being kinder and better. So that's how we can all become billionaires in this world, is positively impacting 1 billion people's lives. So I feel it's an obligation, a responsibility, not an opportunity.
And have you ever heard the saying, death is your teacher?
No.
So it's also going to be used, death is your angel, but death is your teacher is, let's say you are on, you get a knock on the door one day and you open the front door and it's the Grim Reaper, which is appropriate right around Halloween right now.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, John, it's time to go.
Yeah.
And you get dropped to your knees and you beg for another 24 hours. Give me another day. And Grim Reaper
reluctantly says, okay. So he comes back a day later, you're dreading it, knocks on the door. And he goes, all right, it's time. And you're like, you dropped your knees and you beg for another day. And he goes, I gave you 59 years. Why didn't you take advantage of it?
100%. Yeah.
I mean,
and that's kind of what my quote is for act as if today's the day. You'll be remembered for how you treat others. So a lot of times how I tee up that quote when I have audiences, I say, hey, Darren, let's say yesterday, let's say it was a typical work day for you, right? You got ready, you drove to a meeting or the office or, whatever that looks like, and then you drove home. I said, you don't know this, but we recorded it. I had a dash cam from the moment, you kind of, came out of the shower bedroom fully dressed, right? And I got on video how you kind of departed your family. And then when you stopped to get gas and the kind of little, the traffic you were in and how you kind of acted when someone wouldn't let you in or whatever. And then when you got to work and, I got you saying, Alex saying good morning to you and I got your response, boom, boom, boom. And I say, do you mind if we show it to everyone right now? And you think about yesterday and you're like, no. John, can we do it tomorrow? Can you warn me? And so I'm ready for it, right? And listen, I believe everyone would, I'd be a little nervous if you said that to me, right? And so, but we don't know what that day is or when that day is. And, no one's going to come to you like the Grim Reaper and say, hey, Darren, just want to let you know, a week from Thursday is the day we're going to be documenting how you treat people. We don't get that warning. And so that's kind of the whole genesis behind act as if today's the day for how you treat others. Because, this is it, you never know.
Do you ever, I was going to say, I lost my train of thought on that, but
we lost Alex too. Are we in trouble?
Let's see. I think we're still good. Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know why we lost her, but she must have had better things to do.
Yeah. She got bored with us.
She wasn't feeling 100%. So that might be it as well.
Yeah.
But, I guess, so what I was thinking is, I'm going to come back to the meditation and mindfulness. It helps me to stay focused, and I'm green and growing as well. As and all of this, but I like to think of it as a Yoda mindset, your sage voice or sage warrior, to try and stay disciplined and use, your will to stay focused to do these things, because I catch myself all the time. If someone doesn't point it out, maybe fortunately enough, I may catch it myself that maybe I was in a shitty mood or there was something going on that I didn't react the way that I really should. So what do you do? What do you do to, to be thinking about that? I know you have these pop-ups and things like that in your calendar that you look at and you think about, but what do you do to practice all these things so that you're bringing?
It's hard, it's hard. So I am lucky because I teach it, right? And a couple of reasons. So now I know there's more pressure on me, to say, is he full of crap or is he just talking? But also the teacher always learns the most. So when you're just constantly talking about this, something hard for me is not mirroring someone else, meaning, let's say whatever, I'm at a store, I'm wherever, and you give me an attitude, right? My knee-jerk reaction is to give it to you right back. And, excuse me?
You are from Cleveland.
Right. We have a chip on our shoulder, right? What I try to think of, I try to is like, there's a reason he's having a bad day. And it has nothing to do with me. If I probably knew what was going on in his life and it's a culmination of, something that happened today, this week, this month, his wife might be sick. He just might have found out, horrible news, whatever. Or the last customer he dealt with, made him feel, like crap. And I don't need to take it personal. I don't need to, match it. I'm doing, I try to, I absolutely try to. Sometimes I don't, and I'll, give it right back. And then, I'll feel horrible on the way home, or when I think about that, but yeah, I just try to be empathetic. One of our teachings is, that we do with our clients is a day in the life of the customer, which, it is exactly that. You have no idea what people are dealing with. And, if you kind of expected the worst, and we all treated each other like, they got a lot of stuff on their plate, and some could be really, catastrophic. Could have found something out about his kid, his wife, himself. If we treated everyone like that, how much better we would be. Because everyone's dealing with something, chaos. So I try. I'm not always successful, but I am lucky, because what I do obviously brings it to my attention, every day, all day. So I'm a little more, but shame on me when I'm not, because of that.
Well, and you've got the tools that you're using with, your the pad that you have that has Ford on it. Then you've got your phone, or the notifications coming up. Djokovic, one of the greatest tennis players in the world, he talks about this in an interview, how he's an athlete, obviously, but his regimen of what he eats, his nutrition, which you'd expect for an athlete, his workout, stretching, and all that. But he also talks about his spiritual coaches, his daily meditation, his mindfulness training, all these things to keep him in the game. And I think it's just so it doesn't get enough credit to be able to be on point and be your best and deliver, to make the impact that you're talking about. Because it's one thing to self-ruminate about what we're doing and not doing right about ourselves, but you've turned it and say, what kind of impact can you make on others? I know how important with what you've told me about your boys, your 3 boys, and raising them the right way. And that impact, that's another way, obviously, that you can get results by thinking of that impact, and just thinking about your boys. I know you already went through Ford, which is family, occupation, recreation or hobbies, and dreams, and getting that information. But you've talked in the TED Talks about your boys, and there's a couple games that you taught them at a young age. How old are they now?
21, 26, and 31.
Okay. And talk about some of the games you played and teaching them about Ford and
Yeah.
that information from people.
Yeah, I mean, obviously I want my kids to, be good at building an instant rapport, showing interest in others. So, whenever we would travel, we'd play a game of who could find out the most Ford on people we come in contact with. It could be the taxi cab driver, the Uber driver, the bellman, the wait staff. And it's just funny because we're all, just bombarding the Uber driver, asking him questions. And but it's really cool. We're all, and they are at a young age building a skill of showing interest and learning and seeing how educational curiosity could be. And everyone has a story. And sometimes we could stereotype out, it's an Uber driver or it's a waitress or, whatever we could be guilty of. And then you hear their story and, how, where they've come from and, they brought their family and what they had to do to get over it. And not only the lesson in curiosity and learning from others, but also when you see that person you're drilling, for questions light up, because someone actually shows an interest in them. And, that's probably the most rewarding thing, is just seeing someone, get excited, that someone cares enough to ask them their backstory and what brought them here to where they are today. It might be to this country, it might be to this job, it might be, but it's so often it's fascinating, and it's exhilarating to them to tell their story. Right? We love to tell our story. Everyone loves to tell their story. Everyone has a story if we just take a moment to find out about it.
Yeah, that well said. And what about the other game you talked about? Tell us, Beat the Greek game. What's the Beat the Greek game?
So that's something that we teach, train our clients, staff. So if you're in a brick and mortar, you work at a restaurant, a hotel, a salon and spa, doctor's office, right? Where people physically come in, beat the greet. Used to say beat the customer, but United took it literally. So we had to change it to beat the greet, right?
Hey,
And beat the greet means that no one says hi to you first. No one says thank you first, and no one says goodbye to you. And then, in parentheses next to beat the greet, it says 15-5. And what 15-5 means is you come with 15 feet of anybody, you smile and nod, and 5 feet, you say something to them. Even if I'm walking by you to, get someone else, I say, good morning, welcome back, great to see you again. So obviously all these skills are life skills, and I wanted my kids to have it. So since they were very little, to a couple of months ago, we went on a trip, and it's funny. We've always played beat the greet, and as adults, they still like playing this. And so the game is when we're on vacation, let's say, and we're at a resort, we keep score of who we beat the greet with. So let's say we're walking from our hotel room to the pool, and we're walking by a couple that's walking by us. I say, good morning. And what that means is I got a point. I said hello to you before, you could say hello to me. And what it also means is who's ever with me, let's say, 2 of my boys are with me. They don't get a point for saying hi to you because I technically own you, right? And so if I see someone, I'll yell to someone 100 feet away, hey, guy in a blue shirt, hi. I'm like, he's mine too, right?
oh my God, that's great.
But here's where it gets tricky. Who's ever with the other person who didn't say hi first of our family still has to say hi first, because if anyone says hi to us first, we lose 20 points. So this has literally happened to me. Ruined my vacation. I've stepped off an elevator, turn a corner, and someone will say good morning. I'll be like, shit. And that person has no idea why I'm mad. They're like, sorry.
Oh my God.
And I'm down 20, right? I have to, go say hi to 20 people just to break even for the day. So it's just funny, and it was fun when they were kids. And
oh my God. So for everybody taking notes at home, okay, beat the greet. And what's the scoring system again?
1 point to say hello, if you beat someone else.
Yep.
Negative 20 if someone says hi to you first. So, and then, if you're with someone and they say hi first, if me and you are walking the streets of New York and you say hi to a stranger, I can't get a point for saying hi to that stranger because he's yours or she's yours, but I got to say hi because if they say hi to me, the score is you got 1 and I'm down 20. So, there's a 21 point disparity there that, I don't want to lose this.
So the 3 you were walking, you say hi first, so you get the 1 point, but the other 2, even though they
can't get the point, they could lose 20. They could lose 20. So they still have to say, hello to avoid being down 20. And that's
so you got to be aware and paying attention because dad says hello, and then they got to go hello before you respond. Okay. Oh my God.
But it's funny when you get into it, it becomes a mindset. We're saying hello 15, 20 feet out, and like, I was like, hello. Who'd you say hi to? Oh, hi. And it's just a fun game, but it's just getting you in a habit of smiling and making people's day and complimenting them and saying something. And, again, you never know the moment something as simple as that can have on someone and what they may be going through.
That's really cool. I'm gonna see if I can get my troops to jump on board with that. One of the things that a lot of people want to know about interesting people like yourself and successful people like yourself is how do you make sure you have balance and alignment? You're extremely successful in your work and also have 3 boys that you're raising, and you're obviously you got great mindfulness and a great way of being, and you're thinking of others. How do you balance this for yourself, with your busy life and keep it all together?
So it is easier today, both because I've made it a habit and I'm at a point in my career that I can literally, not take calls before a certain time if I'm not traveling, and not take calls after time, and make sure I get my workout in, and make sure I set myself up at the day and all those things. But it takes a while, and not everyone may get to that point in their life where they can dictate their schedule like that, right? It was a lot harder when, I was hustling in my 20s, 30s, and 40s, trying to build, this and working, long days and being on the road and all those things. So, I just learned, all right, what's really important to me. And I heard a great quote. You can tell me all day what your priorities are, but all I have to do is look at your calendar, right? And your calendar tells me what your priorities are. So you tell me how important your kids are. You're working, you have meetings every night, and you're, going to the office at 7 a.m. and you got these business trips, or, whatever. Or you could tell me how important your relationship is with your significant other. But again, you have meetings all night and meetings all day. And, like most of us were like, oh, after I get this part of my career nailed down, after I get this deal done, after I sell my business, then I will, spend my time with my kids, my significant other. And we know that, blink of an eye, that they'll be grown up, and you and your significant other may be strangers, and lost that opportunity. So I took that very seriously, that my calendar it shows what my priorities are. So what I try to do, about 18 months literally, and it's so great with the internet, is when my kids were young, the first thing I do, I would do it, let's say, well, I don't even know what month we're in now, September, October. I would probably do this in January for the following school year. The great thing is you can go onto their school calendars, and they'll show the 24-25 school year. And so I can immediately see and block off their days off, Martin Luther King, President's Club, Thanksgiving, their Christmas breaks. A lot of those are standard dates, but Easter, spring break, moves or is different for every school. Teacher conferences or whatever, when they have their days off. And I put that all on my calendar, and I try to, pre-plan, surprise trips. Like when they were younger, when I was in town, I'd always drive them to school. And every day I would drive them. Every day when I drove them to school, I'd say, hey, how about we blow off school today? And they'd say, really? I'd say, no. And I drop them off one day a year with each of them. The answer would be yes. And they didn't believe me. I'd say, hey, how about we blow off school today? Yeah, really? Yeah, come on. And they're like, yeah. I go, okay. And then I'd call on the speakerphone, and Mrs. Simmons would answer this. Hey, Bo is going to be sick for the next, until Tuesday. And we drive to the airport and go on a trip that was pre-planned, or we just go downtown and do fun stuff downtown. But it was always planned that they didn't know, and that was like cool. So it would be things like that. It would just be putting those big blocks in first, their schedule, their sports schedule, their things, and then anything that had to get booked, business trips or meetings or whatever those things got booked around those. Those are already on my calendar. And it wasn't like, oh, shoot, when do you play next week? Oh, I have a game, match or whatever Tuesday. And I'd look and say, oh, I've been booked for 3 months with this appointment, right? It would be the opposite. So that was one of my best practices. Always driving them to school. I wanted to drive them to school when I was in town, and I wasn't away. We do journals at night. And a lot of times they were, when I was in a hotel, calling them, but every night and we have stacks of journals, like every year, every class, it'd be like, all right, tell me about your day. What was your high? What was your low? And they were great opportunities, learning lessons. It wasn't just to get them, but they might say, hey, I got into a fight with, Billy at recess today. I'm like, whoa, what happened? What was the fight over? And more importantly, who won? Right. But, there's lessons to be taught, or talked about. How did that feel after the fight? Oh, I felt horrible and blah, blah, blah. And, is there something that could have avoided that? Could you, like we talked about, could you have, not taken that personally? Do we know what's going on, in Billy's life at home? Things like that. So it was just, that was always most important to me is the father I am. That just, a lot of things, what we say doesn't matches up with what we do. So I tried not to be a hypocrite in that category.
Well, it sounds like you're an amazing father and done a great job with your boys. If you had to go back in time and think about putting yourself back, John, your first day before you started working, and if you could change anything and better yet, if you could give your younger self advice,
yeah,
what would that be?
There's a lot. Sometimes I think we could fill 10 podcasts on mistakes, regrets, whatever you want to call it. But a lot of those things I needed to do, in order to, be smarter, and life, is the best lessons is experience. But not think that the world's going to end today because something happened. And even with my kids, it's not the end of the world. Give them a hug instead of, overreacting in that moment, thinking that because the teacher called or the principals would call, or, whatever they did at home, thinking, oh my God, they're on a path of, being a bad kid, growing up, being a bad adult, right? It's just, it's overreacting in those moments. And just, it's something I like to do. I don't know if you do this, but we've kind of talked about a lot of them today, is I love having a word, a year that I focus on, and I write on my bathroom mirror. And one of my favorite words, my favorite word of the year, curiosity has been a word. I already know my 2024 year is opportunity. And what I mean by that is you tell me something bad happens, right? You say, hey, John, we work together. Hey, John, we just lost a big client. They're not re-signing with us. And my first, instead of panicking, saying, oh my God, whose client was that? Whatever, the first thing, knee-jerk reaction is, there's an opportunity there, right? And find the opportunity. What do we need to change that so we don't lose more clients? Or, we have a flat tire. Okay, where's the opportunity there? Yeah, it sucks. We're going to be late and we got to spend $300 on a new tire. But where's the opportunity there? Maybe be proactive and say, all right, are we paying attention to our tires? Are we taking them in? There was a way to avoid that. So back to my original thing, one of my favorite words, probably 2018, was encourage, right? And yeah, encourage is a great word. There's a lot of great words, but it's kind of the way I stumbled on it. And I wrote about in the relationship economy. I forget how I stumbled on, not how I stumbled on encourage. I've always known the word, but for it to have an epiphany. So I was reading something, an article or something. It said the Greek translation for encourage is to make strong, right? To make others strong. And I don't know why, but something clicked. And I'm looking at the word encourage, and I start like staring at it, and it starts like on its own moving, right? Encourage, courage in, to put courage in others, to make strong. And all of a sudden that just became my word for the following year. Is that's my job as a leader, as a parent, as a human being, is to make others strong, to put so much confidence in them that they are fearless, that they have achieved more as a result of working for me, working with me being their father, than they ever thought they could have, because of that, that encouragement that I gave them so much courage that they could go out and do that. So again, I'm not bragging. These are things I try to do intentionally. So that's like, so it goes back to your original question 30 years ago, last week. It's not the end of the world that they broke the Voss, or whatever, said something, blurted something out in a fancy restaurant that was inappropriate. Yeah, it needs to be addressed, but it's not the end of the world. We don't have to make, or I didn't have to make it the end of the world. So those are the things. I have a picture in my bedroom. Someone sent me this great picture of and it was like it was at a wrestling match. I'm coaching my oldest son at the time, and he was in high school, and my youngest son, who was 6 or 7, and it was right after we lost his mother, and there's a picture of him coming at me, 4 pictures, him 10 feet away, crying, screaming, whatever, and then 2 feet away, and then all of a sudden we're hugging. It's a really cute series of pictures, but I keep that up there now, even as a 21-year-old, to remember that's my job, and luckily that's the picture they caught, because it could have been very easily a different picture of me saying, "Quit crying," whatever he was crying about, in the grand scheme of things, I'm sure he was overreacting, and I could have told him, quit, being a little baby, and, I'm in the middle of something, and luckily that moment they caught the good John, the good father. And that just reminds me of what my kids need, right? What we need is just being there for them and not overreacting. So long answer.
No, but a great answer. And man, I can't thank you enough, John. I mean, I'm super grateful you took the time to spend with us and everyone listening and watching, and sharing some of your story. And I mean, books are like a treasure, and you've got 5, now 6 of them. And I encourage everyone to check out all of John DiJulius's books. As I mentioned, I absolutely love The Relationship Economy. And then we have the new book. It's not out on Amazon yet. The name again, John, is what?
Employee Experience Revolution. And it'll be out like the second quarter of 2024.
Okay, cool. And, every now and then someone goes, "Hey, Darren, what did this have to do with finances and finding your financial flow?" Well, hopefully I don't need to spell it out, but there's so much to what John dropped on us today about just being in the right place to make good decisions, opportunities as they present themselves, paying attention, listening. What can that lead to in your success and in your finances? And finances aren't just, analytically thinking about what you got to save and the best technical tool to put into. It's the whole package. And we didn't really get into goals too much, other than, if you think about it, John talked about, his mission, his life mission, and that really sets an anchor for him to do all these things, these hard goals along the way. And we didn't even get into flow, but, we got a little time. If you don't mind, John, talk a little bit about, you gave me a screenshot, and I don't even know how to put this up, so I can't put it up, but at age 6, your father left your mother and 6 kids. You had to go on welfare. You're labeled in grade school with attention deficit disorder and a learning disabled. You showed me a report card earlier that the teacher wrote, with parents' strong insistence only, were you allowed to move forward to the next grade.
The grade, yeah.
Right. Not accepted in high school, flunked out of college. I mean, you've had your own struggle. Do you mind, before we part ways, just telling a little bit about your struggle? So, because, sometimes people see someone as successful as you and go, "Man, that guy just had natural ability," or he's just got it, but share with us a little bit about.
Yeah, I think I'm the most ordinary, and maybe ordinary is a compliment. I'm the most ordinary person from a talent standpoint. But again, where's the opportunity in that? My dad left from, my mom and 6 kids, and I was only 6 and never saw him again. And people are like, oh, but I think it was a blessing, because there's a lot of people that, the wrong parent stays, and then that becomes your role model, or you're in a toxic household and you got to live in that environment and be afraid to come home or wake up, or if they get into a fight. I didn't have to deal with that. I got a gift every day from my mother. People didn't think she was tough enough on me. Teachers would call, principals would call, employers, my first few employers would call. Maybe the police stopped by. I don't remember. But and my mom would always stick up for me and say these 4 words to me and about me. She'd say, you're going to make it. I believe in you. And they are the 4 most powerful words you can hear and you could say. And I believe everyone's, has received them, and they may be said differently, but we have to remember that. And I try to remember that. And I try to think about how many people do I give that gift to, instead of going to my employees and say, Darren, why didn't you hit your sales goal this week? Darren, where's the report I asked you for yesterday? Versus saying, hey, Darren, you need help with it? Everything good? Yeah, I can help you with that. I've done that a million times before. Darren, I want to let you know you're doing good. You're going to make it. I know, you're new. I know you're taking on, Lindsay's work while she's off. And I know it's hard. I appreciate you and I believe in you. And that's such a powerful gift. That's something I try to do intentional and say it to my kids every day. It's easy to say to your kids after they win a national championship or they come home with straight A's. Hey, I believe in you. Yeah. Get on the bandwagon. It's not hard to. You need to say it when they don't, when they lose to someone they shouldn't have lost to, when, they don't make the team or get the grades or whatever that is that they want the promotion, and say, hey, you're the last person I'm worried about. I believe in you. You're going to make, that as an opportunity, not getting that job, not winning that match. You're going to turn that into an opportunity that had you won, 6 months from now, you wouldn't be where you're going to be because of how you're going to turn that into opportunity. So yeah, that's a powerful gift my mom gave me that I try to do as often as I can for other people.
Well said. You got me thinking too. So again, thank you for all the great nuggets. I hope everybody appreciated the conversation as much as I did today. And John, tell us where, if people want to get your books, if they want to learn more or hire you for speaking or consulting in their business, where do they go to find more about you?
Yeah, all the books are on Amazon. John DiJulius, Julius, thedijuliusgroup.com. Everything's there. You can find me on TikTok and YouTube Shorts and Instagram and LinkedIn under John DiJulius. Yeah, that's the best place.
Right on. Well, I encourage everybody to go get some books and watch. He's on YouTube, TED Talks, super helpful. And I wanted to remind everyone listening that our book, or my book, I should say, really better our because nothing's done by yourself. Peak Financial Fitness, which is right behind me, just dropped yesterday. The digital.
I want to see it. Pull it out, Darren. I want to see the cover because I want to go get it.
Right here.
Let's see it. Peak Financial Fitness. And what was the publishing date? When did it hit the book? Yesterday, which is what date? Because this may not come out.
That's right. That's right. So October 18th. So by the time
and that's your first book, Darren?
Yes, sir.
Congratulations to you. That's amazing.
Thank you.
And you're going to help a lot of people, and I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Yeah, thank you. We're gonna drop the soft and hardback in the next few days, so it'll be out when everyone hears this. And then I recorded the Audible version too, so that was kind of an interesting experience. But that's all on Amazon as well. And then you can also follow us on Insta, Twitter, TikTok, LinkedIn, and then it's all of those. We have a whole setup for thefinancialflow.com. If you go there, you can find us. But thank you, John. Thank you all for listening, and make it an awesome day. Thank you all for listening. This was the Financial Flow Podcast with me, Darren Wright. Thank you for listening, and I hope that today you were inspired and informed to move even more into your peak financial flow for success.